her arm fully outstretched, and she turns the device to me and just locks eyes and says, "It's going to ask you a question. You don't have to say yes." Jesus Christ! What if I'm ordering a frap? I'm ordering a coffee drink at a Starbucks through a drive-thru, and I get the "Would you like to tip?" starting at 18%. A coffee drink at a drive.
First off, nothing against Evan Ettinger. As a foreigner, I think it's cool to hear his opinions on really anything in American culture. I think it's cool to hear any foreigner's opinions on anything in American culture because it's free speech and it also enlightens us, right? Now, the reason why I'm making this video, it's because of the comments underneath, or I should say the complaints from Americans about tipping underneath that video gives us a window into the lack of understanding of how the restaurant industry really works and the correlation between salaries, prices, and tipping. Now, the complaints were the basic: we shouldn't be paying the employees' wages, tipping is outrageous, the owner should be paying those employees more, whether it's corporate, in this case with Starbucks, or whether it's a privately owned cafe, shop, or restaurant. The owner should be paying more, the owner should be paying wages, higher wages, living wages, whatever you want to call them. In essence, it sounds correct, right? The owner should be paying their employee a living wage. However, restaurants, especially privately owned, but corporate as well, are in essence fighting for their lives. The margins, as I've said in previous videos, are marginal. If they're lucky, they're making a 5-10% profit on that restaurant. Everything that has gone up for you in the last 10 years as a consumer has also gone up for restaurant owners. So rent that they're paying, all the services, the food has gone increasingly up the roof, and high labor wages in a lot of states that they have to pay the minimum plus tips. If you take all that into consideration and the fact that restaurants are barely making profit, if not a lot of are under water or breaking even, then where do you suggest that this salary comes from? If we raise the price, if we raise their salaries, we're going to raise the prices, right? Correlation number one. So next time, Evan, that you come to America and drive through the drive-through and your coffee's $25, I don't want to hear a complaint, because then that means that employee behind the counter is getting paid the $30 or $25 that they should be getting paid. So the tipping is actually offsetting the wages, the prices to go off a lot. So if you tip $1 versus paying $25 for your coffee, that happens. That's how employees make their money, right? Of course, tipping depends on good service and all of that stuff as well. But that is the culture that has been built in America. Is it not correct? That's something that's been going on for a long time. But that's the correlation and how that works, right? So instead of focusing our energy on complaining about tipping or not tipping the employees, we should be focusing our energy on the big problems that would solve that, and then owners could pay their employees more, right? Preventing giants to conglomerate like Cisco and Restaurant Depot, right? Like preventing the high rent on commercial properties and private properties as well. If we prevent private equity from buying huge apartment buildings, huge housing settles, huge lots, they charge whatever they want because it's probably a monopoly at this point, then there would be more margin for everybody, right? Your rent would be cheaper, the restaurant's rent would be cheaper. If we also if we actually encourage our senators and our representatives and our government to spend money on health insurance and education and things that matter and people can use them and they're not a burden on the employer, then we could pay more to our employees, right? Actually, we wouldn't even need to pay more to our employees because they would have cheaper rents, they would have universal health care, they would have cheap education. So we wouldn't need all that. So next time we criticize tipping, if we don't understand how the restaurant industry works and how the backdrop of politics is so important in that, then maybe just tip $1. Don't tip, but don't complain.